The rain was coming down in sheets when Holden Grayer yanked open the front door of his tiny two-bedroom rental, his 6-year-old daughter screaming from the living room, "Dad, the pizza's getting soaked." "Yeah, I see that, Ace," he called out, stepping barefoot onto the porch. The delivery driver was struggling with the box, her long coat clinging to her from the storm, hair plastered to her cheeks. She looked like she'd walked through a hurricane. "Come inside," Holden said, already reaching for the box. "You're drenched." "I'm okay," she tried, but a gust of wind practically shoved her inside. He shut the door behind her. "You're soaked through," he said, setting the pizza down on the counter. "You want a towel or something?" She looked around, hesitant. "I didn't mean to intrude." "You didn't," he said simply. "I'm not letting someone walk back to their car looking like they just swam here." The woman smiled softly. "I'm Olivia Lane." Holden Grayer," he replied, offering his hand. Hers was cold in his. "That's my daughter, Ava." Ava peeked around the corner, her big brown eyes curious. "You're not the usual pizza guy," Olivia laughed. "Nope, I'm just helping out for the week." Holden turned to her. "You don't really look like someone who delivers pizza," she shrugged. Looks can be deceiving. He didn't press. He didn't have time to press. Ava was bouncing. "Can she stay for pizza, Dad, please?" Holden glanced at Olivia. "You hungry?" She smiled again. "Honestly." "Starving." And that's how a dripping, wet stranger ended up sitting at Holden's tiny kitchen table, eating cheap pizza with him and his daughter while the storm raged outside. "You live around here?" he asked between bites. "Not far," she said lightly. "Just needed something normal." "So I'm doing deliveries for a bit." Holden raised an eyebrow. "That's your idea of normal," she grinned. "You'd be surprised." He chuckled, but the curiosity lodged in his chest. There was something about her. Not just her beauty, though. Yeah, she was gorgeous, but the way she looked straight at him when she spoke. Like she actually saw him. Most people didn't. Most people saw a broke single dad and kept it moving. "You always let strangers in during storms?" she asked. "Only the ones who bring pizza," he said. She laughed, and Ava giggled too, and for a weird moment it felt like something. The next day, Olivia was back, not with pizza. She showed up holding a bag of muffins and a coffee carrier. "I owed you one," she said when Holden opened the door in the same faded gray t-shirt from yesterday. He blinked. "You didn't owe me anything." "I wanted to." He looked over his shoulder. Ava was still asleep on the worn couch, tangled in a fleece blanket. "You want to wake her up with muffins?" he asked. "That kid will love you forever." "I'd like that," she said softly, stepping inside. It became a thing after that. Every few days, Olivia would just happen to be on a delivery near their place. Sometimes she brought coffee. Sometimes she brought flowers for Ava. Once, she brought a new umbrella and left it hanging on the doorknob with a note that simply said, "In case the rain comes again." There was something about her that made Holden's chest ache. She was warm, real. And there was a sadness in her eyes sometimes that matched the one in his. Still, he didn't ask questions. He didn't want to scare her off, but one Thursday night, as Ava was in the bath and Olivia was helping Holden dry dishes, he finally said it. "I know you're not really a delivery girl." She froze with a plate in her hands. "Why do you think that?" He turned to her. "Because you drive a Range Rover. You always smell like expensive perfume. And yesterday, I saw a guy in a suit open your car door for you when you thought I wasn't looking." She exhaled slowly. Then she laughed quiet and real, busted. "So," he asked. Olivia set the plate down and leaned on the counter. "I'm a co-founder of a wellness brand. We sell skincare, candles, that kind of stuff. I'm not a billionaire, but I'm comfortable. And yet you're delivering pizza." "I needed a break, Holden, from boardrooms, from people who only talk to me because I own something valuable." He met her eyes. "And now, I don't know, I met you. And Ava. And suddenly I don't want to go back to pretending I'm okay with the people in my world." Holden's chest tightened. She wasn't just beautiful, she was lonely like him. "Why us?" he asked, voice low. Olivia stepped closer. "Because you make me feel like a person, not a brand. And Ava makes me laugh, and this place." She looked around the tiny kitchen. "It's the most real thing I've felt in a long time." Holden looked at her for a long second, then said, "You should know something." "What?" "I'm broke. I mean, like really broke. I work at the auto shop down the street. I barely make rent, and I haven't taken anyone out in years because I can't afford it." She looked at him like he'd just said the sky was blue. I don't care. His voice cracked. You don't. No, she reached up and touched his face gently. I care about how you treat people. I care about how you make me feel safe even when you don't know me. I care about how you love your daughter. Holden swallowed hard. I don't know what this is, but I want to find out. Olivia smiled. So do I. And then, right there in his kitchen, she kissed him. It was soft, slow, like they both needed to be sure the other was really there. Ava came running in a second later, yelling about bath bubbles, and the moment broke, but the shift had already happened. Holden Grayer had brought a woman's delivery indoors during the rain. He just didn't know yet that he'd invited a millionaire into his life and into his heart. Holden stood at the edge of the playground, hands shoved into the pockets of his worn jacket, watching Ava climb a plastic rock wall like she was scaling Everest. Her laughter echoed across the park, ringing clear and bright above the chirping of birds and the distant hum of traffic. She's fearless, Olivia said beside him, her arms crossed, a paper cup of hot cider steaming in her hands. Gets that from her mom, Holden said without looking away. Roxy once climbed up onto our roof barefoot because she locked herself out, 8 months pregnant at the time. Olivia blinked. Seriously? Yeah, I was at work. Neighbor called the fire department. They offered her the ladder. She told them to hold it steady and climb down herself. Olivia glanced at him. You talk about her like it doesn't hurt. It always hurts, he said quietly, but it's part of Ava now. I can't talk about one without the other. They fell into silence for a moment, the kind of silence that didn't demand to be filled. Olivia dug the toe of her boot into the grass. Holden broke it with, So what happens when your break is over? She looked at him, the wind tugging at her coat. I don't know. Your world's probably waiting. Meetings, investors, fancy things I can't even pronounce. Probably, she said. But they've waited before. They can wait again. He tilted his head. You always this impulsive? No, she said. I used to plan everything down to the hour. But when you wake up one day and realize you've built an empire and still feel hollow, you start to question your calendar. He considered that. You think this, he nodded towards Ava, now dangling upside down from the monkey bars, is what you've been missing. I think, she paused, choosing her words, I think I didn't even know what I was missing until I met you. Holden looked at her for a long moment. That's a hell of a thing to say. I don't say it lightly. Ava came running over then, her cheeks flushed. Liv, come push me on the tire swing. Olivia grinned and handed Holden her cup. Your daughter commands me. He watched her race after Ava, her laughter mixing with his daughter's like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. Something pulled tight in his chest. He hadn't expected this, not from a woman who walked into his kitchen like a summer storm. That night after Ava was asleep, Olivia lingered on the front step. She glanced up at the roof of the house, then back at Holden. You ever think about leaving this place? She asked. He leaned against the doorway. Every time the heater clanks. But I can't afford to think seriously about it. What if money wasn't the problem? He frowned. But it is. It doesn't have to be, he straightened. Are you offering me something? I'm asking, she said carefully. If you'd ever consider letting someone help. No, he said instantly. Not like that. I'm not trying to buy you, Holden. I didn't say you were, but I've had enough people in my life think money fixes things. It doesn't. She looked away. You think less of me now? No, he said gently. But I need you to understand this. I've had to fight for every dollar since Roxy passed. I've gone without meals so Ava could eat. I've patched my boots with duct tape. So if you offer me an out, it can't come with strings. It wouldn't. Even so, I need to stand on my own. She nodded slowly. Then let me stand beside you, he blinked. What? I'm not offering charity, I'm offering partnership. We figure things out together, no handouts, just hands held. Holden stared at her. You really see this going somewhere? I wouldn't be here if I didn't, he exhaled. You scare the hell out of me. That's fair, she said, stepping closer. You scare me too. He touched her face just lightly. I don't want Ava getting attached if this falls apart. Then let's make sure it doesn't. The next morning, Olivia showed up with a box in her arms and a determined tilt to her chin. What's that? Holden asked as she stepped inside. Ava's art supplies were all dried out. I got her some new ones. She said she wanted to make a rocket ship. He opened the box, markers, colored paper, glitter glue, pipe cleaners, stickers. It was like a miniature craft store exploded inside. She's never had this much stuff, he said quietly. She has it now. He looked up at her. You keep doing that. Doing what? Showing up for us, she shrugged. Maybe I like the feeling. They didn't kiss, not this time. But something settled between them, weighty and real. That weekend, Olivia invited them both to a small outdoor festival in the next town over. Holden hesitated. He hadn't left the neighborhood in over a year, but Ava begged, and Olivia promised it was casual. He hadn't expected the private parking area, or the way vendors greeted Olivia by name, or the discreet security detail that seemed to trail just out of sight. When Ava ran off to a face painting booth, Holden turned to Olivia. This is your world, isn't it? She nodded. A part of it. It's huge. It's also lonely. He reached out and took her hand. Doesn't have to be. She looked at him, eyes shining. Then let's make sure it isn't. That night, as he tucked Ava into bed, she whispered, Is Olivia your girlfriend now? Holden smiled softly. I don't know, baby, maybe. She makes you happy, Ava said sleepily. She makes me feel like I'm allowed to be. And as he turned out the light, Holden realized something terrifying and beautiful. He was falling hard for the woman who knocked on his door in the rain and quietly, without asking for permission, began to change everything. Holden stared at the gleaming metal gate in front of him, its iron bars curled into elegant spirals, flanked by two tall stone columns. The security guard inside the booth tapped on the window, motioning for him to roll his down. He did, and the man peered in. Name? Holden cleared his throat. Us, Holden Grayer. Olivia Lane invited us. The guard checked a clipboard, then nodded. You're on the list. Just follow the drive all the way up. The gate creaked open, and Holden slowly pulled his truck forward, the tires crunching over the pristine, gravel-lined road that curved through manicured trees and glistening hedges. Ava leaned forward from the back seat, eyes wide. Dad. Is this a castle? It's something, he muttered, adjusting his grip on the steering wheel. They passed a fountain the size of his entire front yard, water leaping from the mouths of marble lions. At the top of the hill, a white estate rose like it had stepped out of a movie, 3 stories of glass and stone, clean lines and sweeping arches, with a view that stretched all the way to the distant mountains. Holden parked near the circular drive, in the only vehicle that wasn't black or German. He shut the engine off and sat there a moment staring. You okay? Ava asked, clutching her stuffed bear. He turned to her. Yeah, just don't touch anything unless you're told you can. She nodded solemnly, and they stepped out just as the front doors opened. Olivia stood there wearing jeans and a navy sweater, barefoot, her expression unreadable as she watched him approach. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. Hi, she said. Holden took Ava's hand. This is where you live. It's one of the places. He nodded slowly. So this is the part I hadn't seen yet. I wanted to show you, she said, stepping aside as they entered the house. The foyer was cavernous, with ceilings that stretched higher than any building Holden had ever worked in. A staircase curved up like something out of a ballroom. The floors gleamed beneath their feet, polished stone that echoed faintly as they walked. Ava let go of his hand and wandered toward a massive window overlooking a sunken pool. Dad, there's palm trees inside. Holden looked at Olivia. Why now? Because if this is going to be real, she said, you should see the whole picture, not just the parts I showed you. He followed her into a sitting room that looked like it belonged in a magazine's soft lighting, white furniture, art that probably cost more than his truck. She gestured for him to sit, then disappeared briefly and returned with lemonade for Ava and 2 tumblers of something darker for them. I've been thinking, she said, settling beside him, about where this is going. He took the glass but didn't drink. Me too. I don't expect you to step into this and be comfortable. I'm not, he admitted, but I'm not walking away either. She looked surprised. You're not. You terrify me, Olivia. This house, this life, it's the opposite of everything I've known, but you're not. You're the same woman who sat on my kitchen floor and helped Ava glue cotton balls to a cereal box. I was afraid showing you this would push you away. It almost did, he said honestly, but then I remembered something. What? You didn't have to keep coming back, but you did. Not for the house, not for the show, for us, she exhaled, fingers tightening around her glass. I fell for you when I wasn't supposed to, he turned toward her. And I let myself fall for someone I thought I'd never deserve. Ava wandered back in then, holding a tiny white dog in her arms. Can we keep him? Olivia blinked. That's mine. His name's Bishop. Holden raised an eyebrow. Bishop? He used to belong to a diplomat, she said. Long story. Ava buried her face in the dog's fur. He likes me. He likes peanut butter, Olivia said. And your hands smell like it. Holden chuckled softly, but Olivia's face turned serious. There's a gala this weekend, she said suddenly. For one of our partner charities, I'm supposed to speak, and I want you there, both of you. Holden stared at her. Olivia. I don't own a tie. I'll take care of everything. All I need is for you to say yes. He hesitated, then looked at Ava. She was back on the floor, giggling as Bishop tried to lick her face. You sure? He asked. I'm sure. Saturday night, Holden stood in front of a full-length mirror that wasn't his, adjusting the cuffs of a tailored black suit that fit too perfectly. Ava was spinning in a soft blue dress nearby, her eyes lit up like stars. I feel like a princess, she whispered. Holden swallowed hard. You look like one. Downstairs, the ballroom buzzed with low music and the clink of glasses. Men in tuxedos, women in gowns, servers weaving through the crowd with silver trays of food he couldn't name. Olivia stood at the top of the staircase in a crimson gown that swept the floor, her hair pulled back, a simple diamond necklace glittering at her throat. But her eyes, those eyes still looked at him like he was the only one in the room. She descended slowly, and when she reached him, she said, You clean up better than I imagined. He leaned in. I feel like I walked into someone else's movie, she smiled. You're exactly where you're meant to be. They entered the ballroom together, and heads turned. Whispers followed them, but Olivia ignored everyone. She introduced him to people with quiet confidence, never once hesitating to say, This is Holden, and that's Ava. Later, as the night deepened and the music swelled, Olivia took the stage. Her speech was poised, heartfelt, and effortlessly elegant. But when it ended, she didn't walk away. She looked down at Holden in the crowd and said, clear and sure, I want to share something personal. The room quieted. I met someone recently, she continued. Someone who reminded me that there's life outside of boardrooms and bottom lines. That home isn't about square footage, but about who's waiting for you inside. Holden's chest tightened as every eye turned toward him. This man, he didn't ask for anything. He didn't know who I was. And still, he gave me something I hadn't had in a long time, a place to be myself. She stepped down from the stage and walked straight to him. I don't care what anyone in this room thinks, she said, voice low now, but I needed you to hear that. He looked at her, stunned. You just told a room full of millionaires that you fell for a mechanic. I told them I fell for a man who makes me feel real. Holden didn't hesitate. He kissed her right there, in front of every camera, every whisper, every sharp-eyed investor, because none of it mattered, only her, only this. And as he held her close, he realized that for the first time in years, he wasn't surviving anymore. He was living with her. Holden adjusted his grip on the folding chair under one arm while balancing Ava's booster seat in the other. The wind whipped through the open grass field as he followed Olivia across the community lot, where a white tent fluttered like a sail at the center. A new neighborhood initiative was being launched, a literacy program for underserved kids. It was Olivia's idea. When she'd first pitched it to the local board, Holden had watched her transform. There was no trace of the guarded woman who'd once hidden behind a delivery cap. She spoke with conviction about access, about giving children like Ava the tools they deserved, no matter their zip code. She wasn't doing it for press. She never even mentioned her name in the promotional materials. She just wanted it built. Now, she glanced over her shoulder. Do you see the sign? Holden followed her gaze to the banner being fastened to the tent. The Ava Lane Greer Reading Garden. He stopped walking. I didn't ask you to name it after her. You didn't have to, Olivia said, slowing to meet his eyes. She's the reason I remembered what mattered, he exhaled. You're serious about this being permanent. I'm serious about everything, Holden, this place, this project, you and her. He knelt to set the chair down, watching Ava dart ahead toward a table stacked with books. We've never had something like this. A place that felt built for us. That's because the world doesn't build spaces for people like you, Olivia said. So I will. Later that afternoon, after the ribbon cutting and story readings, Holden found her inside the tent, organizing leftover supplies into neat plastic bins. She was alone, sleeves rolled to her elbows, hair pulled back. "I've been thinking," he said, stepping in. She looked up. "Dangerous." "I want to do something," her brow lifted. "That's vague." He ran a hand through his hair. "I've been saving, not much, but enough. I want to open my own shop." Olivia's face lit up, not with surprise, but with something deeper. "What kind of shop?" "Auto repair, honest pricing, no upselling, a place where single moms don't get talked down to. Somewhere Ava can come after school and hang out in the back while I work." She crossed to him slowly. "You want to do it on your own, with your partnership," he said carefully. "Not your money, your mind. You know how to build things, I know engines. We could make it real." She pressed a hand to his chest. "I'll help you draw up the plan, but it'll be your name on the sign." He pulled her in. "Only if yours is underneath it." Ava's voice called from outside, asking someone if she could take home the leftover stickers. Olivia smiled against Holden's shoulder. "We're not the same people we were when we met, are we?" she asked. "No," he murmured. "We're better." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Between Ava's school projects and permit applications for the shop, the days blurred. Olivia worked late into the night sometimes, laptop open on Holden's couch, her socked feet tucked under her, and a cup of tea balanced on the armrest. He built shelving in the garage to store tools he hadn't used in years. On a Sunday morning, while Ava painted a cardboard spaceship in the driveway, Olivia emerged from the house holding a rolled-up blueprint. "I have something for you." Holden wiped his hands on a rag. "What's this?" She unrolled the paper across the hood of his truck. The layout was detailed, clean, a reception area, 3 bays, a small office, a break room. "You drew this." "I had it drawn," she said. "After you told me what you wanted, I just clarified it." Holden stared at the image, then at her. "You believe in this." "I believe in you." His throat tightened. "I spent years thinking I'd never have more than this driveway. Now you have a future." Construction began with a modest lot near the outskirts of town. Olivia negotiated the lease quietly, without grandstanding. Holden oversaw the site himself, driving nails, laying flooring, and repainting the old brick facade. One evening, as the sun melted into gold over the hills, Ava stood on a step stool beside him, helping him install the last screw on the new sign. Grayer and Lane Auto Care. Holden looked down at her. "You think your mom would have liked it?" Ava tilted her head. "She'd love that it has both your names." He glanced toward the car where Olivia waited, the door open, music playing softly. "She's not just my partner in the business," he said. Ava looked up. "I know." That night, Holden cooked dinner, real dinner, not boxed mac and cheese, and lit a candle he found in Olivia's delivery box from weeks ago. She stepped into the kitchen and froze. "You're wearing a button-up." "I found it in the back of the closet," he said. "It's not ironed. It's perfect." They ate together at the small table, knees brushing. After Ava went to bed, Olivia reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He stared at it. "You're proposing to me?" "Not yet," she said, nudging it toward him. "Open it." Inside was a key, simple, unadorned. "You're giving me your house key?" he asked. "I want you and Ava to move in. If we're building a life, it should have one address." He closed the box gently. "We're not charity cases." She met his gaze. "Your family." He stood, walked around the table, and pulled her into his arms. "I'm going to marry you one day." "I'm counting on it," she whispered into his neck. The wedding was small, 30 people, a garden, and Ava tossing flower petals down the aisle in a dress she picked herself. Olivia wore ivory. Holden wore the same suit from the gala. At the altar, he didn't read vows. He spoke. "You walked into my life in a storm," he said, "and you never left. You saw past my walls. You made room for my daughter. You gave me back my dreams. I don't have a fortune, but I have something more than I thought I'd ever hold again. I have love. I have you." Olivia's voice trembled as she answered. "You reminded me who I am when no one else cared to look. You showed me that home isn't 4 walls, it's the laughter between them. You and Ava are my heart." When they kissed, the wind picked up, the trees swayed. And Holden Grayer, who once thought love was something meant for other people, knew he'd found the kind that stayed. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was chosen, he was loved, and he was finally fully home. The air buzzed with a different kind of energy, now steady, warm, and full of the quiet rhythms that come after the fire. Holden stepped out of his newly opened garage, wiping his hands on a towel as the bright midday sun leaned across the pavement. The fresh sign above the entrance gleamed, Grayer and Lane Auto Care. Below it, in smaller script, built with heart, fixed with purpose. Across the lot, Olivia stood with Ava, helping her plant a row of small flowers along the front path. Ava had insisted they needed real color to make the place feel like more than just a shop. Olivia hadn't hesitated. She'd driven them to a nursery that same afternoon and let Ava pick every bloom. "You're going to be covered in dirt," Holden called. Ava grinned without looking up. "That's the point." Olivia stood, brushing off her jeans. She said, "We're planting happiness." Holden walked over, tossing the towel over his shoulder. "You know she's going to expect these to grow overnight." She also asked if we could build a lemonade stand next to the workbench. "Apparently she's branching out." He leaned in, dropping a kiss to Olivia's temple. "She gets it from you." "No," Olivia said, turning to face him. "She gets it from you." "I just gave her the space to show it." They stayed like that for a moment, sunlight warming their skin, the scent of fresh earth curling between them. Then Ava tugged on Holden's sleeve. "Dad, can I go inside and draw the new customer coupons?" He nodded. "The key's in the drawer." "Remember, no glitter glue near the register." As Ava darted inside, Olivia stepped closer. "I need to tell you something, and I want you to listen before you react." Holden narrowed his eyes slightly, but nodded. "All right. My board offered me an opportunity to expand the Lane Collective overseas. They want to open a wellness retreat in Florence. They asked me to oversee it." He went still. "You're leaving?" I turned it down, he exhaled. "Why?" "Because I already have everything I need here. A real family, a real home. I'm not walking away from this." Holden reached for her hand. "You could have gone. I wouldn't have stopped you." "I know. That's why I didn't have to." She wrapped her arms around his middle, resting her cheek to his chest. He held her there, letting the silence say what words couldn't. They'd both been offered the world in different ways. And somehow, both had chosen this small patch of life they built together. Later that evening, after dinner and Ava's bedtime story, one she insisted on reading herself now, Holden and Olivia sat out on the back steps of their shared home. Olivia leaned against him, her hair damp from the shower, her fingers trailing lazily along his knee. "I found something," she said, reaching into her cardigan pocket. She pulled out a weathered piece of paper, slightly wrinkled at the corners. "What is that?" he asked. "Your list." He took it, frowning. It was his old goals list, scribbled on the back of an oil-stained invoice. He hadn't seen it in years. "Open my own shop, take Ava to the beach, fall in love again." He stared at the words. "I forgot I even wrote this." "I didn't." He looked at her. "You kept it." "I found it tucked in the back of your toolbox a while ago. I wanted to wait until you'd done everything." "I haven't taken her to the beach yet." "You will." Holden folded the paper carefully and slid it back into her pocket. "I already got the biggest one." She tilted her head. "You," Olivia's voice softened. "That's funny, because I was about to say the same thing." They leaned into each other, the stars beginning to pierce the navy sky above them. For the first time in a long time, Holden wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. He wasn't bracing for loss or scrambling to hold things together. He was grounded, loved, whole. Months rolled by in a rhythm they hadn't known they were missing until they had it. The shop flourished, thanks to word of mouth and a slowly growing reputation for fairness and quality. Clients came in asking for Holden by name. Some brought cookies. One woman brought him a hand-crocheted seat cover. Ava started piano lessons with an elderly neighbor Olivia had met at a fundraiser. She practiced every day, proudly showing off her progress in impromptu kitchen concerts. Holden built her a small stage from leftover lumber behind the shop. Olivia painted it lilac. One Saturday morning, Holden and Olivia stood side by side at the town center, watching Ava perform at her first community recital. She played haltingly, missing a few notes, but ended with a beaming bow. When she ran into their arms afterward, Holden lifted her high into the air. "That was amazing," Olivia said, kissing the top of her head. I messed up the middle, Ava whispered. Doesn't matter, Holden said. You finished strong. That night, as they lay in bed, Olivia tucked under Holden's arm and Ava snoring softly in the room next door. Olivia whispered, I want another, he blinked. Another what, baby, he turned to her. You're sure I wasn't before, but now. I can't imagine not growing this life with you. Holden pulled her close. Let's do it. A year later, on a crisp autumn day, they welcomed a baby boy with dark curls and eyes that mirrored both his parents. They named him Rowan, after the tree outside the shop that Ava said looked wise. Holden built a crib by hand. Olivia framed a photo of their wedding day and hung it above it. Their house expanded one room, then another. Friends came and went, but their family remained the constant. They celebrated birthdays with backyard cookouts and holidays with hand-cut decorations Ava made at school. There were scraped knees, sleepless nights, and moments of pure, quiet joy, and always, always love. Because the moment Olivia Lane stepped onto Holden's porch in the middle of a storm, everything changed. Not just because she was wealthy or beautiful or full of mystery, but because she stayed, and together they built something that no amount of money could ever buy, a life, a home. A forever.